Hey, welcome to the channel, A Collector's Life for Me. Today we're going to be breaking down my Sliver Overlord deck. Sliver Overlord is a 5-color legendary creature, Sliver Mutant. 7/7, pay 3, search your library for a Sliver card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library, pay 3 colorless, gain control of target Sliver. So I built this Sliver deck because I used to play Magic when Tempest and Stronghold were around, and I really like Slivers. There weren't a ton of them, and the Commander format didn't exist, but there were still some pretty good ones, and they were a lot of fun. The Sliver Queen, which sadly is not in this deck because I no longer have that card, would have been the best Sliver out at that time, but since they've come out with a bunch of 5-color Sliver Lords, and in this case I'm using the Sliver Overlord that is the Secret Lair drop. So let me just show off. This is the Sliver Overlord from the Sliver Premium Deck series. I actually purchased that deck at a time when I wasn't playing Magic. I saw it at the store shelf at Target, and I just thought it was too cool to pass up. So I bought that deck. I wasn't playing Magic for a while, then I got back into Magic. The Commander format was very popular, so then I decided to actually build a Commander Sliver deck around that premium deck. So let's start with the land base. So it's a 5-color deck, so it's my only 5-color deck. And part of that reason is because the land base is so demanding. I don't own any original dual lands anymore. I got rid of my collection back in the early 2000s, and I regret it like most. And I had a lot of dual lands, a lot of cards, so I've had to rebuild. But we'll start with Command Tower. So Sliver Hive is a Sliver-specific multicolor land. Unclaimed Territory, great tribal multicolor land. Secluded Courtyard, a new, very good tribal multicolor land. Path of Ancestry in the Secret Lair foiling. Ancient Ziggurat. So this is a premium deck series symbol, so anytime you see that, it was a card that was from that deck. And I try to include as many as possible as I could in this. City of Brass. Exotic Orchard. So I have every shock land in this deck, so we'll start with Blood Crypt. So these are important for fetching Stomping Ground because they count as the land type that the fetch lands can typically get. The premium fetch lands, that is. Sacred Foundry. Steam Vents. Hallowed Fountain. Godless Shrine. Temple Garden. Watery Grave. Overgrown Tomb. Waterlogged Grove. Yavimaya Coast. Nurturing Peatland. Fiery Islet. Sunbay Canyon. The Painland, Sulphurous Springs. Sunpetal Grove. Drowned Catacomb. Dragon Skull Summit. And then some fetches. So we have Marsh Flats, Misty Rainforest, Scalding Tarn in the retro etched foil, Arid Mesa in the retro hollow foil, Flooded Strand, Wooded Foothills. So those are extremely important for mana fixing. You need those. And I have the Triomes, the Ketria Triome, the Indatha Triome. These are in the Godzilla Showcase arts. Zagoth Triome, Savai Triome. And then I have Mutavault, which is a great utility land because it is also a Sliver itself. These are the Mana Rocks and Mana Dorks. So you have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Vanquisher's Banner, amazing tribal card, Coat of Arms from the Premium Deck series, Noble Hierarch, the Ignoble Hierarch, Bloom Tender in the foil secret rare full art, Dryad of the Elysian Grove in the foil full art secret rare, and Feyburrow Elder. There's very little interaction in this deck. There's Winds of Abandon, Heroic Intervention for protecting your permanents, Odomri's Call for tutoring up whatever important sliver you need, Teferi's Protection for protecting your permanents, Aura Shards. This is really the only targeted removal in this deck, but it's great removal for enchantments and artifacts. Rhythm of the Wild. It helps protect against counter spells and also gives your creatures haste or right. And then Distant Melody, decent card draw. If I had an extra Cyclonic Rift, I'd probably replace this card with it. That being said, one thing about all my commander deck builds is I do not share cards between decks. Every deck I own is its own. Every card in there stays in that deck unless I reconstruct the deck. This deck is all about getting your slivers, using their abilities to beef each other up, and then it's all about attacking with those slivers. So you have your Metallic Mimic. This is in the Secret Lair drop. It's a fake sliver. Unsettled Mariner, another changeling sliver, but this helps protect your cards from being targeted. Realm Walker, a newer changeling. Morophon, which is a very cool, this could be the commander of the deck if I wanted it to be. It's another changeling or fake sliver in this case, but great include. Scion of Draco, one of the few non-slivers in this deck, but I just really like this ability because slivers are all multicolored, and you could cast this really cheap because chances are you're going to have each basic land type among the lands you control. So, if you can cast this for 2, it's only going to improve your slivers depending on their colors. And now it's all about the slivers. So, Galerat is sliver. Sliver creatures you control have flying. Virulent Sliver. All sliver creatures have poisonous 1. Striking Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have first strike. Another thing about this deck is it's mostly built around the lower mana cost slivers, so it's kind of like a cheap sliver deck. Sidewinder Sliver. All slivers have flanking. Sentinel Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have vigilance. Sinew Sliver. All slivers get +1/+1. Heart Sliver. All sliver creatures have haste. Venom Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have death touch. Quick Sliver. Flash. Any player may play sliver cards as though they had flash. Muscle Sliver. All sliver creatures get +1/+1. Gemhide Sliver. All slivers have tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Mana Weft Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Predatory Sliver. Sliver creatures you control get +1/+1. Dregscape Sliver. Each sliver creature card in your graveyard has Unearth 2. Leeching Sliver. Whenever a sliver you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life. So they started releasing a few of these slivers in the Secret Lair drop as part of the Secret Lair portion. I'm hoping they release enough of them to where they become easily obtained at a low cost, so I can start replacing some slivers in here with those. They're extended art foils, I think, for the most part. Diffusion Sliver. Whenever a sliver creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless the controller plays 2 colorless. Winged Sliver. All sliver creatures have flying. Crystalline Sliver. All slivers have Shroud. This might be one of the most important slivers in the deck. Spine Sliver. Whenever a sliver becomes blocked, that sliver gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature blocking it. Cloud Shredder Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have flying and haste. Victual Sliver. All slivers have pay 2, sacrifice this permanent, you gain 4 life. Hibernation Sliver. All slivers have pay 2 life, return this permanent to its owner's hand. Shadow Sliver. All slivers have shadow. Spiteful Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have whenever this creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player or planeswalker. Siphon Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have lifelink. Horn Sliver. All slivers gain trample. Opaline Sliver. All slivers have whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Harmonic Sliver. All slivers have when this creature comes into play, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Necrotic Sliver. All slivers have pay 3, sacrifice this permanent, destroy target permanent. Magma Sliver. All slivers have tap, target sliver gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of slivers in play. Shifting Sliver. Slivers can't be blocked except by slivers. Root Sliver. Root Sliver can't be countered, sliver spells can't be countered. Fungus Sliver. All sliver creatures have whenever this creature is dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Toxin Sliver. Whenever a sliver deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. It can't be regenerated. Bone Scythe Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have double strike. Ward Sliver. As Ward Sliver comes into play, choose a color. All slivers have protection from the chosen color. And Brood Sliver. Whenever a sliver deals combat damage to a player, its controller may put a 1/1 colorless sliver creature token onto the battlefield. Now we're on to the lords. So what's also fun about this deck is all of these lords are interchangeable as the commander. So however you're feeling like playing or whatever you think, because none of them are really built around the specific ability of the commander or the lord. They're just built around getting slivers out. I just like Sliver Overlord because if you need a specific sliver, it's the best at getting them. I think Sliver Queen overall is the best sliver to build a commander deck around. But here's Sliver Legion. So 5 color. All sliver creatures get +1/+1 for each other sliver on the battlefield. So essentially a coat of arms specifically to slivers. Sliver Hive Lord. Sliver creatures you control have indestructible. That's a fun one. And the newest Sliver Lord is the first Sliver. Okay, 7/7 Cascade. When you cast this spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exile cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Sliver spells you cast have Cascade. So you could probably build a different build around this deck and have a really fun sliver deck. You would just want varying mana costs because you want to see that Cascade ability actually cascade off. So the first time you cast first sliver, you won't get the second Cascade because your second sliver doesn't actually have the Cascade ability yet. But the next time you cast a sliver, you'll get this Cascade ability, and ideally it would be set up to where if you cast like a 4 or 5 mana sliver, then hopefully you can get a 2 or 3 mana one out, and then you could get a 1 mana one out, so that one sliver cast can get you multiples. Doesn't always work out that way unless you play with top deck manipulation, but still a fun card to play around. So that's it. Slivers are amazing. I think slivers have a place in every Magic player's heart because of their unique ability to impact each other on the board. So these aren't actually in the deck, but they are my tokens that I use. So I use these for like the Sliver Hive land, my life counter, which is a Sliver Overlord life counter. Pretty cool. And then I use an Ultra Pro Black Lotus deck box, mostly because it's 5 color. And it's not Magic the Gathering, but slivers remind me of evolutions. There's so many of them, you know, and they're fairly different, but they all come from the same place. So I'm using an evolution playmat with this deck. So I hope you enjoyed this deck breakdown. I'm a big Sliver fan. Check out the cost of this deck in the description. And beyond that, enjoy the rest of your day.